Um, I'll just introduce myself briefly since this is my first time in this forum. So I'm Mike Jackson. I'm an engineer on the Microsoft Edge team. And so I've been working with Amir and Andy for this bimodal performance timings in web app. And I think this was previously discussed in this forum where we were talking about adding a extending the navigation type to adding a user agent launch like value to the enum. And we collected a bunch of feedback both in this forum and in other forums. You know, this can happen for all navigation types, not just like a regular navigate, but can happen. We can be in situations where timing's thrown off, you know, in back-forwards navigations and other things like that. It would be impractical to add new enum members for all navigation types. The user agent can be under load at other times, not just during startup. And there was some difficulty expressed in this forum around mapping the browser launch to a HTML concept. So with all that in mind, we went back and sort of thought about it a little bit more and tried to restate our goals, which is to allow developers to eliminate outlier metrics when the user agent is in a non-optimal performance state. And you know, one of the things that we looked at here was like when we went and collected data, we were looking at, you know, where were we seeing spikes? And when the user agent was under load, right, you know, we'd see spikes all along the timeline from the start time all the way through to, you know, request start or between DNS lookup start and DNS lookup end. And so that sort of then led us to the proposal that I'm sharing today. And then the other thing that we wanted to do too was avoid this being sort of like used as a proxy to determine what the user agent performance state is in real time. So that led us to this proposal, which is to, instead of extending the navigation type, we'd add a new property called system entropy. There's been feedback on the name, so I'm happy to work through naming updates and do some bike shedding offline. But the idea here being that for top-level navigations, we'd return high or normal values. For other navigations, we just return empty string, and that, you know, with the data that we sort of started collecting, you know, I think we want to focus on what user agent launches today, where that concept is sort of just something that we defer to each user agent to decide what that meant for them. But then, you know, in the future, we could expand it to any navigation where the user agent is under load. And I've put in a little code snippet here for how we expect people to sort of use it, to use the API. And then the other thing I wanted to mention in this forum, I think looking at the notes for this meeting earlier, there were some questions around how Chrome custom tabs or WebView might work. And so Chrome custom tabs on Android, I think, you know, should just work the same way that it would work in the browser. WebView doesn't really have a signal to say whether or not the host app is during startup. So, you know, the proposal here is at least we just always return normal, but there may be like the WebView team might find it helpful to expose an API at some point to allow the host app to sort of participate in that conversation. And then with restored tabs, those aren't typically loaded until the user selects them. And so it really just sort of I think what I'm proposing here is that basically it just behaves the same way as a regular tab. Like if the user was able to start the user agent, click on a tab, stop typing before the user agent was finished loading, then, you know, it would return high. Otherwise, it would just return normal in that state. And then the other question that I've heard a lot of is like, well, why can't we just use compute pressure as a like being able to go do this, since you want to know when the user agent is under load. And really the issue there is that since it's using JavaScript, right, there's a whole bunch of events that just you can't really capture. Like by the time the developer is able to register for the pressure observer, you know, the system state may have gone back to normal, and so like they would have no way of knowing that the metrics being reported by this API are, you know, an outlier. And so that's the proposal, and that's, you know, I'd like to get thoughts, feedback, discussions, questions.
And we'll stop recording.
Yeah.